Hello, everyone. I'm Solid Blue Sister, and welcome to My Turn to Talk, Thursday, May 20th, 2021. The show today, my topic changed. I was going to talk about something entirely different today, but today I am going to talk about police brutality and the effects of it on the Black community. And I'm going to talk about the disturbing increasing incidents of law enforcement who are killing people of color, mainly African Americans, Black people who are unarmed. And after they're in custody, handcuffed, and the brutality, the beatings, the punches, and sometimes the deaths. And then these police officers go and they brag about it. They think it's funny. Yesterday on MSNBC, Rachel Maddow did a show, and she talked about an African-American man by the name of Ronald Greene, who was murdered May of 2019. Now, if you guys thought George Floyd was bad, the tape that was that the family had been asking for 2 years to be released, and the Louisiana State Troopers, they refuse to release this tape. So finally, a reporter got the tape. I don't know how, I don't care. But it was obtained, and now the whole world can see. The whole world can see once again the democracy, the fairness of America. The same, country that we're telling Israel to cease fire on another country. I don't give a damn about Israel. Right now, at this moment, I care about African Americans in the state, in the country of America, in the United States. That's who I care about right now. These Asian hate bills, these Israeli hate bills, whatever. I don't care. What about the hate bill towards us? Because we still don't have it. Hell, we're still waiting for our 40 acres and a mule. But these attacks by law enforcement, and you may say that, it's only a percentage. It's only a percentage of law enforcement who is doing this. It's only a small percentage. It's probably more. There are probably more stories out there that we don't even know. Because see, police lie. They lie. I'm sorry, but they do. Do all police lie? No. Are all police bad? No. But damn, can you please talk to the ones that do, the ones that that are doing things that they shouldn't? Then I say you need to step up, and I blame you for everything that is going on. When I saw that tape last night of Ronald Greene, it's like, once again, you're stunned, but you shouldn't be stunned. But this one, and Rachel Maddow put it in the perfect context, just the brutality. And at one point I just had to put it on pause, and then after I saw this tape, I went in, talked to my 20-year-old son, who is going to be going back to the dorms in September to go to school. And I'm literally telling him, if you don't have to go out, if you don't have to leave that campus, don't leave that campus. If you go across the street to the store, because there's a grocery store that's across the street from the campus. If you go across the street to the grocery store, make sure you don't jaywalk. I mean, in California, jaywalking is illegal anyway, but a lot of people do it from the college to the store. You go to the corner. You wait for that light to change. You cross in between the walkway. You make sure that you don't ever give a cop a reason to stop you. And if you go out, I don't want you going out with a group of white people. If you're the only Black person, stay home. If they want you to go out with them, no. Now, my son's going to be 21 years old next month. And in September, he'll be a grown man. He can do whatever the hell he wants. But hopefully he will listen to me, because I told him, if you get stopped in a group of white people and you weren't doing anything wrong, and they say it wasn't me, or even if they say, whatever, who do you think is going, if they're going to take somebody to jail, who do you think they're going to take first? It's going to be you. So just stay home. And I'm telling him all this, and I'm literally in tears. So the tape that I am going to show you is the first one from MSNBC, Rachel Maddow, and the pure brutality and hatred, and what they did to Ronald Greene, to the point where the officers were wiping the blood off of their uniforms. They were wiping the blood off of themselves. So again, I say, I don't give a damn about the Asian hate bill. I don't care what's going on in Israel. I don't care. What about us? We've been waiting for 400 damn years. So on that note, I am going to share this with you. Let me get that out of the way, and we will start with this one.
What I'm about to describe, some of it will be hard to hear. I will also warn you that I'm going to play some tape in a couple of minutes that many people will find hard to watch. I certainly did. But when this story broke today, even though there are stories of this type that seem like they break all the time, this one in particular just seemed to stop the news in its tracks. Certainly for everybody who works on this show, it stopped us all in our tracks. Just kind of, you can't really move on once you've seen something like this. What this is about is something that happened in Louisiana just over 2 years ago. And in West Monroe, Louisiana, there's a hospital there called Glenwood Regional Medical Center. And that night, May 10th in 2019, the emergency room at that hospital received an ambulance. And the ambulance held a 49-year-old man who was handcuffed to a gurney. He was already deceased when the ambulance pulled into Glenwood Regional Medical Center, and they wheeled him into the ER. The ambulance was accompanied by Louisiana State Police. And the police that night told the emergency room doctor who was attending this ambulance that the man who was dead in the ambulance had died on impact when he crashed his car into a tree. That was the explanation for why this man was dead when he arrived at the ER. And the doctor examined the body.
Okay, I'm going to stop this for a moment. If Ronald Greene was dead on impact, why the hell was he handcuffed to a gurney? Why is he handcuffed to a gurney as he's being taken into the ER? If he crashed his car into a tree, why are you going to handcuff him? Why is that necessary? That right there was a telltale sign. that the police lie.
Examined the man who'd been brought in the ambulance, noted in his doctor's notes that the man was covered in blood and covered in bruises. But he also noted that the man had 2 taser prongs hanging out of his back. Wait a minute. This is supposedly a car crash casualty. What? They're saying he crashed into a tree, died on impact. What, did the tree tase him after he hit it? The ER doctor noted all this in his notes and actually wrote in his notes that night, he wrote, quote, "does not add up." Because, right, it did not add up. And yet that really was the official explanation that Louisiana State Police tried to go with for how a 49-year-old barber from in West Monroe, Louisiana, a man named Ronald Greene, that's the story they tried to tell about how he died that night. Louisiana State Police told Mr. Greene's family that he died when he crashed his car during a chase. Troopers said they tried to pull him over for some sort of unspecified traffic violation shortly after midnight, about 30 miles south of the Arkansas state line outside Monroe. They said he died on impact when he crashed into a tree. It took the ER doctor pointing out the freaking taser prongs still hanging out of his back. It took Mr. Greene's family filing a wrongful death suit for police to admit that, yes, okay, something else might have happened. No, they can't come up with an explanation for how the tree fired those taser prongs into him. Police released a 1-page new report with a new explanation that said, quote, "Greene was taken into custody after resisting arrest and a struggle with troopers." And then inexplicably, he became, quote, "unresponsive." He became unresponsive and died on his way to the hospital. The report did not describe any use of force by the troopers in this instance. And that was literally all the Louisiana State Police said about the death of Ronald Greene. That's all they have ever said. To this day, more than 2 years later, the Louisiana State Police have still given no further explanation of Ronald Greene's death in their custody. And crucially, for all of this time, they have refused to release the troopers' body camera footage from that night. It took 474 days after Mr. Greene died for the state police to even open an internal investigation into what happened. And that was only when their hand was forced. Summer of protests over the police murder of George Floyd in Minneapolis had put the spotlight back on cases like Mr. Greene's. Perhaps more presciently, in terms of seeing what impact it might have, Mr. Greene's family also took the radical step of releasing graphic photos to the public in an effort to demonstrate to the public that the police explanation of what killed Ronald Greene was a ridiculous explanation. They released photos of the condition of the body when they received it. They showed deep bruises, deep cuts to Ronald Greene's face and scalp. They also showed his vehicle. They released a photo of his.
Okay, I'm going to stop it there for a moment, because by the Greene family releasing pictures of his body, it's reminiscent of Emmett Till, when his mother, Mamie Till, wanted him to have an open casket funeral. She wanted the world to see what they did to her son. And I applaud these families, because I think that for something like this, the world does need to see. Yes, it's hard, it's painful. I mean, it's painful for me, and this is not even my son. This isn't, this isn't my relative, but he is one of me, and I say, whenever something like this happens, have that open casket, have people march by and see what so-called people in authority will do, or people who are not in authority. But this is what happens to people with dark colored skin. This is what happens to people who are Black, who are African Americans, of African descent. This is what happens to us. I apologize for pausing. I will keep going.
His vehicle. It's the car he'd been driving the night that he died. Showed that the car was only mildly damaged. The airbags hadn't deployed. This was not a car that had been involved in a major crash that had mortally wounded its driver. In the midst of all of this, the Justice Department announced that it had opened a civil rights investigation into Ronald Greene's death. Can you imagine how bad a case has to look for the Trump Justice Department to open a civil rights investigation? Really? Did they even do that? And still, the Louisiana State Police would not say anything else about Ronald Greene's death, wouldn't release the body cam footage, wouldn't afford any further explanation of what happened. Last September, they finally decided to fire one of the officers that was involved in Mr. Greene's death, although they would not say why they were firing him. Tragically, that officer died in a single vehicle car crash just hours after.
I'm going to say again, tragically, the trooper died. I don't care. I don't care. Good. Bye. See ya.
After he was told that he was fired. Days later, the Associated Press obtained audio of that same officer describing how he beat and choked Ronald Greene the night of his death. On a recording from his body cam microphone, that officer who was in the one car crash, was heard telling somebody very matter-of-factly that he, quote, beat the ever-living F out of Ronald Greene. He said, quote, choked him and everything else. He was spitting blood everywhere, and all of a sudden he just went limp. After that horrifying reporting, Ronald Greene's family was finally, after a year and a half, allowed to see the body cam footage from the night that he died. The family's attorney said that Mr. Greene's mother and sister wailed like they were at a funeral when they finally saw the footage. He said it was damning footage that showed the troopers choking and beating Ronald Greene, repeatedly jolting him with tasers, dragging him face down across the pavement. That attorney, Lee Merritt, who also watched the footage, told the Associated Press, quote, this family has been lied to the entire time about what happened. The video was very difficult to watch. It's one of those videos like George Floyd and even Ahmaud Arbery, where it is just so graphic. Well, today what happened is that today we learned to our collective horror that the attorney for the Greene family was right when he described it that way, because today the Associated Press obtained and published edited excerpts from the Louisiana State Troopers body cam footage from the night that Ronald Greene died. And I will tell you that this stopped the news today for a reason. I'm going to show you some of what the AP published today. As I said, it is not a pleasure to watch. That is a grave understatement. It is disturbing to watch. And the nightmarish nature of the video of this incident is compounded by how long all of this was kept secret, how blatantly state troopers lied about what really happened. There is something even worse about the fact that we are only seeing this footage now more than 2 years after the fact. And not because the police finally decided to release it, but because a dogged reporter from the Associated Press was finally able to get it. And that's the only reason it has come out. Again, it is more than 2 years after this happened, and they have had this all the time. So here's the first bit of video we're going to play tonight. This is when police approach Ronald Greene's car. They have been chasing him. This is the chase has come to an end. I'll tell you again, this footage is excerpted and edited by the Associated Press. We don't have the raw tape. The full footage they obtained is 46 minutes long. They say there's long stretches where Mr. Greene is not on camera. The trooper whose body camera footage it is appears to cut the microphone off about halfway through. That makes it hard to discern what's going on in some moments. We don't have footage from other troopers at the scene. The AP itself is cautioning that it can be difficult to piece together what's happening at all times. But in some of it, it's clear. Like in this clip where police first approach Ronald Greene's car, it certainly appears that he is not resisting and in fact is pleading with the troopers.
Let me see you. Come here, mother. Okay. Oh, Lord Jesus. I'm scared. I'm your brother. I'm scared.
He says at the end there, officer, I'm scared. I'm your brother. I'm scared. We also have another portion of the body cam video after the troopers get Mr. Greene out of the car. And you see Mr. Greene on the ground here, appearing pretty motionless, while an officer tases him again. The officer then handcuffs him. Mr. Greene is clearly bloodied at this point. The officers part of the reason we can confirm that is that the officers are commenting about the amount of his blood that they've got on them and the fact that they are wiping it off themselves.
Taser. Oh, get up here. Get your on. Oh, all right, all over. This guy ain't got AIDS.
The AP tonight has posted one other portion of the video. This portion doesn't have sound. We believe what happened here is the trooper turned off the microphone on his body cam, but you can see here Ronald Greene handcuffed on the ground. The AP reports that later, after a several-minute stretch in which Ronald Greene is not seen on camera, he appears again, limp, unresponsive, bleeding from his head, bleeding from his face. He's then loaded onto an ambulance gurney. His arm is cuffed to the bed rail. But here what you will see is an officer putting leg shackles on him. And then I'm not going to show you this part, but what you can see in part of this video is the officer dragging Mr. Greene by those leg shackles across the ground face down. Again, his handcuffs are on him behind his back. His legs are shackled. He is face down and limp, and they are dragging him by the leg shackles face down across the ground.
This isn't dry food or wet food. It's not.
Okay. I couldn't watch that. I mean, I watched it one time and I couldn't watch it.
Now, the Louisiana State Police tonight would not comment on the content of these videos, except to say that the release of the video was not authorized. Yeah, tell us about it. They said the release of these videos, quote, undermines the investigative process. Yes, how is that investigative process going? Well, the officer who dragged Ronald Greene on his face by his leg shackles, he was suspended from duty for 50 hours for that offense. 50 hours. Another of the troopers is now on unpaid leave, but not for Ronald Greene's death. He and several other troopers from the same unit were arrested a few months ago for beating up other Black men in their custody. They were also discovered to be bragging to each other over text messages about the violence they have inflicted on Black men they have arrested. But there's also the federal investigation into Ronald Greene's death. There's also his family's lawsuit against the state police.
Okay, so I saw that video last night. I could only watch it once. That's why while I was playing it, I had my head down. Because I'm sorry, but I just can't. Rachel Maddow said that the body cameras were 46 minutes. 46 minutes. So I'm going to assume that that 46 minutes included the initial chase. But what went on with Ronald Greene, which I'm pretty sure was longer than 8 minutes and 46 seconds and longer than 9 minutes and 29 seconds. But how do you blatantly lie about something like this? You get the man to the hospital. Taser prongs are still sticking out of his back. You're going to say that he crashed into a tree. You know, I just don't. I don't understand. I don't understand. If I had to watch something like that of my son, I would probably wail like I was at a funeral. The police brutality in this country has got to stop. And it's just not with the George Floyds and the Breonna Taylors, the Ronald Greenes, you know, it goes way, 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 way back, you know, to when there weren't cell phones or, you know, camcorders and what have you. But it goes way back. And we're always the target. It's always us. So I have to say to you, Mr. President, the man that I voted for, well, yeah, you know, doing all this stuff with COVID, and yeah, you know, you go on TV, you talk about here where we are with COVID, we'll be able to open pretty soon. Honestly, I don't care. I don't care. I'm fully vaccinated. My family's fully vaccinated. Most of the people that I know who are in my circle are, you know, wear masks, wear gloves, whatever. What are you going to do about the pandemic of police brutality? That's what I want to know. What are you going to do to protect people who look like me, who protect people who look like Ronald Greene, who protect people who look like George Floyd? What are you going to do for them? You know, like I said before, that hate crime bill against Asians, that, you know, that got through really, really fast. And one reason why it probably went through the Senate so fast is because Mitch McConnell is married to a woman of Asian descent. So he's going to make sure that he has all of his, you know, people around him. You better vote for this. You better vote for this. You know, I don't care. I don't care. I want to know, what are you going to do about police brutality? Now, on that note, I'm going to show you something else. I'm going to start here.
Fuck, dude. What the fuck y'all did? You should be getting nigga.
Press! Press! I'm press! I am press. Okay, I'm down. I'm down. Okay. I am press. Please. I was just sprayed in the face with pepper spray. Currently have my head on the ground.
Out.
Shoot that man!
Don't shoot! Don't shoot! What the fuck? What the fuck? What the fuck?
They're sighting us in, dude.
Guys, forced. Don't shoot! Whenever that curfew was made yesterday at 8 p.m.
Okay. All right. So, you know, here you have somebody from the press. You know, he gets down on the ground like the police officer asks, and then another police officer comes by and sprays him in the face with pepper spray. You know, I mean, you know, there are hundreds of videos out there that are like this. You know, the blatant disregard and this qualified immunity that police officers hold is bullshit. Because basically what it is we go out and we can kill you, we can beat you up, we can maim you, we can paralyze you, we can do whatever the hell we want, and we're not going to get in trouble. Even if you do tape it, we will not get in trouble. I mean, we can take somebody and we can beat the hell out of them, you know, with batons and what have you, and we'll walk away. You know, meanwhile, you all are left burning down your cities and what have you, but we got away with it. You know, so I have so much that I want to say, but I'm not. You know, but I will say this. I believe every single police officer who has killed someone unarmed, be they black, white, purple, green, whatever, the way you killed them is the way you should die. And if you are found guilty, you don't get to go to the firing squad or the gas chamber, whatever. However you killed that person, that is how you should die. Save our tax dollars. Forget the life in prison. Unless, of course, you know, you have to, you know, be Bubba's girlfriend, you know, whatever. But this is insane. This is truly insane. So I want to ask, does anybody have anything they want to say? If not,
I do.
Okay. Go ahead.
I didn't get a chance to see the first like half hour of the show, but maybe the last 10 minutes or so. And it's a lot of things that bother me about the situation. I don't want to get long-winded, but I know a lot of where I live, I live in Texas, and I see a lot of signs not far from my neighborhood when all this stuff started happening with Colin Kaepernick, when he first brought awareness to the situation of the police brutality. A lot of people were saying negative things about him and about the kneeling and all that at the NFL. And it's a result of this, that all of this is taking place. And I just want to say that I would see, we back blue lives matter, you know, that kind of thing. And I would see it on billboards and things like that. And something that disturbs me is insensitivity about when a person loses their life, when they're Black, and when it's a person that's a non-Black, particularly white people that you see in the news, or I actually have seen in person protesting, and they'll say that, why didn't he follow orders? It's almost like it's so insensitive that they don't get it. And what disturbs me also is that they'll say, I'll read sometimes on like forums and comments that they'll make it matters like this. There's been many articles on CNN and USA Today, and I'll look at the comment section and I'll see sometimes, and even on like Quora, I'll see people say stuff like, oh, well, look at all the Black on Black crime, and what about all of that? Why aren't they protesting about that? And what they, and I never comment on these things, I just read them, and because I don't want to get into anything with anyone, because you can't change people's opinions, they're their opinions. And so when I see things like that, I sometimes want to respond to say, there's white on white crimes. There's the mafia who've been doing this for decades, killing other Italians, and nobody says anything about that. But Black people killing Black people, that's always been something. And typically when something like that happens is usually someone that they know. This is not the same kind of situation. This is a situation when a person is unarmed and who's supposed to be protected by the law. That's where the incense is raised on most people that are Black. And even there are some people in that are not in the Black community who see that it's an injustice. You don't have to be Black to see that it's an injustice. It has nothing to do with why aren't you protesting about Black on Black crime? Well, they were in Chicago protesting to stop the violence movement. I think they had something in New York as well. A lot of the gang violence, a lot of these people that are involved in gangs are in gangs and they're killing each other. No different from what the mafia is doing. They're fighting over drugs and turf and who go control this nefarious activity, whether it's prostitution or whatever. They're usually fighting over things like that. That's what gangs do. So when you hear about all the violence that's happening in the Black community, it's probably, I don't have the statistics, but it's usually majority, probably 90% gang related, no different from the mafia. And I'm sure the mafia is still doing the same things that they've been doing since whatever, the 30s, the 40s, the 1920s, Al Capone. They're still doing it, but you don't hear about it. It's not being reported in the news. Like a lot of the gang violence in the Chicago area or the New York area. I'm sure there's lots of hits in the mafia community, but nobody's reporting that. But I don't want to get long-winded, but I just want to say that to finalize my comment to say that there needs to be accountability. And I don't know if these officers that are doing these things, committing these crimes, are just insensitive and just racist at heart. I don't know if they haven't been trained, but to me, when you get a situation with a person that's unarmed, you need to use other forms of method before you put out a gun on them, especially if they don't have a gun in their hand or a weapon. You need to tase them or pepper spray them if they're acting irrational or something, or they look like they might be losing it, to calm them down. But the last resort should be a gun. And if you're going to shoot the gun, the last thing you need to do is shoot at the person's head or chest. That's all I want to say.
Okay. Let me ask this. What you missed before you came on was I played the videotape that Rachel Maddow showed yesterday on MSNBC of Ronald Greene. Ronald Greene was not shot. He was beaten to death by the police officers and he was tased several times. So if you're stopping someone on a high-speed chase and you don't, granted, I will say, high-speed chase, whatever, supposedly Ronald Greene was, speeding up to 115 miles an hour, whatever. And he finally stops and he's like, I'm sorry. He has his hands up, whatever, he's ready to get down on his hands and knees, whatever, and you just start beating him. You just start tasing him several times, whatever. Is it training that is in question here, or is it just the lack of human decency?
I think it's a lack of human decency because I'll never forget one day, my husband and I and the children were making a road trip to visit family in Mississippi. My husband has lots of family in Mississippi. I think it was a family reunion. We on our way back, we're somewhere between Mississippi and maybe Alabama. And there was this is a 2-lane interstate. And there was a state trooper, I believe it was a Mississippi state trooper, who was in the left lane. And there were other people that was on the road with us leaving from this reunion. And this cop was going 10 to 15 miles below the speed limit. Nobody wanted to go around him. 10 to 15 miles below the speed limit. My husband decided that he would go around him. No sooner than he went around him, the siren went on. And we're like, what's this for? I think the speed limit may have been 65 or 70. He's going 55. Almost like to see who was going to challenge him. And it's like a lack, it's like a power trip, a lack of you don't respect me, you're going to go around me. And he actually pulled us over, gave him a ticket. We're like, for what? You're speeding. How am I speeding? You're going below the speed limit. What can you do but to take the ticket? You're 10 hours from home. You're not going to come back there to fight it. What are you going to do but to pay the ticket? It's this lack of it's a power trip. It's I'm authority. How dare you go around me? How dare you? And that's all I wanted to say about that.
You know, we've had several, I'm not even going to say several, we've had many discussions about this over the years. And, you know, I know how passionate you are. And I just, you know, you just shake your head. You just shake your head because if it's not one thing, it's something else. It's like the killing of unarmed Black people, especially Black men, has now, in my opinion, become like the mass shootings. You hear about them, you know, every other day. Here's another incident. You know, this Black man was killed. This Black woman was killed. You know, it to me, it's like a mass shooting. When I was six years old, and my sister, she would have been 8. My father was a mail carrier. And at that time, postal workers, my father used to come home for lunch. He used to come home for lunch all the time, you know, and he would come home for lunch and then he would get right back out there. And then during those times, you know, it wasn't so much, you know, where now you have mail carriers that don't get off shift until like 8 o'clock at night because they're trying to get the mail out, you know, whatever. It wasn't like that. And, you know, my dad was able to get off work in time to, you know, pick us up from school and what have you. And this one particular time, it was a Saturday, and we lived in an area called Chatham, and middle class, nice neighborhood. And whenever my parents were home, they would leave the screen door, they would leave the front door open and the screen door would be open, you know, whatever. And one day the doorbell rang and my father got up to answer the door, and there were 5 cops there, 5 white cops. And they asked my father, "What are you doing in this house? What are you doing in this house?" And they literally barged through the screen door. Screen door was broken, everything. They pushed my father down on the living room floor, face down, 5 police officers, guns drawn. My sister and I, my mother was in the bedroom. My sister and I, we're coming out, we're freaking out, we're crying. We're like, "Daddy, daddy, daddy, mom, mommy, 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 daddy, the police, whatever." We're like freaking out. And these police officer calls us pickaninnies and tells us, "Shut up, you pickaninnies." And, you know, and you're just howling and screaming because you see your father, you know, down, face down. And my mother, she's coming out of the room and she's like, what's going on? And, you know, and they tell her, "You shut up, you know, nigger, you know, how can you all afford this house? What are you doing in this neighborhood? How can you all afford this neighborhood? Blah, 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 blah." So after a lot of screaming and me at the age of 6, who always got in trouble because of my mouth, I remember looking at one of the police officers and I said, "If you don't get off my daddy, I'm going to make sure you get it." And that police officer looked at me and he got off of my father. And I said, "I'm going to tell on you. I'm going to tell on you." And one thing that when they finally left after the door was destroyed, I remember the look on my father's face. It was one of humiliation. in front of his family. And my father was the type of person he was a very humble man, very humble. My father would literally drive the same car until it literally fell apart. I mean, literally fell apart. My father, did not believe in spending money on a lot of things. It was like, be grateful for what you have. He grew up in Alabama. He was very what do I want to say? Frugal, whatever, very humble man. But I just remember the humiliation on his face. And I always felt bad about that. And my mother and father, they did file a police report, and, they went and they said something about the officers and what have you. And I do know they did come and they paid for the repair of the door, but I don't think anything else, it went any further than that. After all, this was Chicago, one of the most corrupt police forces ever, in the country, probably in the entire world, but just the fact that it is a power trip, that police think they can do whatever the hell they want. And I'm sick of it. I am sick of it. I'm sick and tired of it. And what do we do? Besides making sure that we have our, our cameras out, ready to record. But we're not going to be able to record every incident. Why does it take, 2 years for the family of Ronald Greene to finally get this videotape? And then when they do get it, like the lawyer said, that the family is wailing like they're at a funeral because the video is so bad. I'm sick and tired of it. I am just sick and tired of it. Excuse me. So does anyone want to comment on that? Because I have something else that I want to say. Okay. The Minneapolis police, back in I want to make sure I get the time right. It was back in January 25th, 1989. There were two people by the name of Lloyd Smalley and Lillian Weiss. Lillian was 65. She had relocated from Texas in the 1940s. Lloyd was 71. He relocated from Kansas around the same time. And they were companions for 30 years. And on the night in question, the police of Minneapolis served a no-knock warrant on this house that they were told was a crack house. But it wasn't. It was the home of these elderly people, Lillian Weiss and Lloyd Smalley. Lillian had reduced vision and mobility issues. And when the police barged into this home on this no-knock warrant, they thought that they were going to encounter resistance. So what they did was they threw in a flashbang grenade, which caused a chair to catch fire. And the house burned down. So in the fire, some police were going door to door. They went next door to the people next door where it was some younger people, and they got them out. They went into the room and saw Lillian and Lloyd in bed sleeping. And they didn't bother to get them. They thought that, okay, well, they should have heard the noise. They would get up, whatever. Well, the house burned down and Lillian and Lloyd were killed. Now, after that, Minneapolis went through a whole thing about no-knock warrants. But they were mired in controversy because when all of this came out with the no-knock warrants and the fact that these elderly people were killed because you burned down their house and you entered a house that was not a crack house, and even if it was a crack house, that you have to use a flashbang grenade that could possibly cause a fire, you know, Minneapolis had always been mired in the brutality, that police brutality. And the city council and whatever, they were never able to really control the narrative. They never really had anyone in place to really get a handle on the law enforcement in Minneapolis. So since that time, the Minneapolis police force grew more blatant. And you had people like the Derek Chauvins. So again, I ask, when you say reform the police and they need to go through training, you know, they need to go through sensitivity training and, you know, racial disparity, whatever training. Is it really the training that they need? Or is it the fact that you really need to gut the police force and start all over with people that you know that are not corrupt, that are not white nationalists, you know, or even if it was a Black police officer, you know, someone who's not, doesn't hate white people, gonna go out and start beating up white people. I mean, is it a case of where you just gut the entire police force across the country and you start over? You know, that you're giving these psychological tests and what have you, that you're really, you know, in the United States is the only country where you can literally become, you know, in some states, a police officer in like 6 weeks. It's like, you know, the, what do you call it? When you're taking a test, the Cliff Note version of becoming an officer, where you have in these other countries who have very low crime rate, where, you know, the police brutality is next to nil, because they literally go through like 2 years of having to go through a process in order to get on the force. And if you don't pass this, you don't pass that, you don't pass this test, you're let go. You know, just like a fireman, you know, you're trained to become a fireman. If you can't, you're not strong enough to, you know, carry that hose up 3 flights of stairs, you're let go. So at what point do we let these people go? So does anyone want to respond on that?
I agree that there needs to be an overhaul. And how do you find, well, I guess you find them by the ones who had previous complaints where there's nothing been done. I guess you have to go through all of those people who've had complaints filed against them and start from there. That would be the thing to me that they need to do. Start there. But I agree that just like they put teachers through certification, you have to be certified. You have to not only you have to have a degree, but to teach school in most states, you have to have a certification. And sometimes that requires 2 years for these teachers to be qualified to teach. So I think besides, I know some states, their degree requirements for police officers. And to me, it goes beyond degree requirements. You need to have a background in criminal justice. Your degree need to be in criminal justice.
Okay, let me stop you there, because I don't think a degree is necessarily something that you need to have to be law enforcement, because you can have a degree and have a degree in criminal justice and all this other stuff and still be an asshole who is a racist, who no matter how many degrees you have, you know, you are going to take advantage of that badge.
The reason why I said that is because I find, and it's not to like do a stereotype,
Mhm.
but I find that when people are particularly, and it's not always the case, because there's lots of people sitting in jobs who are racist and have masters and PhDs. But I will say that a lot of times when people are college educated, they have to take critical thinking classes, they have to take behavioral classes, organizational skills, things like that. And I think sometimes those things are necessary. And if a person can stick it out to get a degree, maybe this person have more intelligence or have a higher intellect than the average person who came out of high school who hasn't taken those courses, or a person who has not gone through college and been around a diverse group of people, different ethnicities. Whereas you get somebody that grew up in a majority all white town, then go to college, just know the people that's in their town. They decide to apply for a police job in a town over where most of the people in that town are Black. So, it depends.
Okay, so let me ask this. I'm gonna throw this out here because I personally am having a problem with it. How do you think Black police officers are reacting to all of this violence against unarmed Black people? I mean, do you think they're speaking up? Do you think they're staying silent because, the ire would be turned on them? I mean, what are your views on something like that?
I think that they're not protesting in the media because they may feel that there'll be retaliation on them. So I think that they are silently grieving amongst each
Okay.
other. That's what I think.
Okay. All right.
Mhm.
All right. You know, once again, I just think of this Ronald Greene tape. And again, while I was playing it, I had to put my head down because I barely got through it last night. And it's a hard video to watch. And for his family to have to finally see it, and, they see the entire video, which, MSNBC only showed us parts because, as Rachel Maddow said, that they were just shocked that everything, they just stopped in their tracks just from looking at it. To have video that was 46 minutes long. And again, I'm going to attribute that to, possibly them part of the chase and what have you. But to put this man through what he went through and the way he died, and you're going to, handcuff a dead man to a gurney to transfer him to the hospital. And then you have the nerve to get to the hospital and say that this man died from crashing his car into the tree. And I'm glad that they showed his car, which had hardly any damage on it. It was dented, but it wasn't like he crashed into a tree. And that the doctor pointed out, you crash into a tree, yeah, you have 2 taser prongs still hanging out of your back. You crash into a tree and you die at the scene, but you handcuff that dead person to a gurney. The same thing with George Floyd. It's like we had the suspect, he resisted, he had a medical issue, he died on his way to the hospital. That is what Derek Chauvin and his cohorts turned in. That's what they signed. And then again, if it weren't for someone with this video camera, we would have thought that George Floyd had an incident and he died at the hospital. It just amazes me how much the police lie and cover up. Just blatantly, like Laquan McDonald in Chicago, and the amount of times they shot that boy, unarmed.
It's beyond the police as well, because
It is.
it's just so much hatred. Because I'll never forget the whole Michael Vick situation.
Mhm.
This man was had death threats against him and his kid, even his children and his wife, because of these dogs. And people were so enraged by seeing, not to say that animals don't matter, but just the fact that someone is enraged when they see an animal beaten, but you don't have the same enragement when you see a defenseless person beaten or murdered. I don't understand that way of thinking. I really truly don't get that. Where's your sympathy for a person who's being beaten unarmed, the same as an animal is being beaten, when the animal didn't cause any provocation? Where's your sympathy? But yet you are sending death threats to this man's wife and children for something that they didn't do. Where's your sympathy? That I cannot understand. It was so much enragement by a lot of people in America about the Michael Vick thing. They locked this man up for 2 years.
Yeah, they did, and me being a dog lover, I have 3, whatever. I was very pissed off with what Michael Vick did, but I did think that I thought that his sentence was excessive, because I do know that there are a lot of white people, especially in the South, who treat their dogs like crap, have them chained to a tree, for forever, never take them off the chain. The dogs are half starved and what have you. But you are absolutely right. You're absolutely right. But yet these, people are like, how can you treat the dog like that, but yet you're treating another human being like that? And I think it just comes down to basic human decency.
Yes.
So I don't know. People again, I don't care about these hate crime bills for all these other groups of people. I want to know, where is ours? Where is our 40 acres and a mule? Where is the reparations for us? Where is the bills to protect us, from people like you, from, the people who are, from the people who are, what do you call it? Supposed to protect us.
Yes.
So again, I say, if anything happens in a Black neighborhood, I say, don't be so ready to call the cops. If it's something that you could possibly handle on your own, like Michaela, what was it, Michaela Brown? Somebody hope, because someone in the neighborhood could have tackled her, with the knife or whatever. But I would not be so, honestly, I would not be so fast to call the cops. I'm going to see if there's something that I can do on my own first, or call social services or something.
Yeah.
But on that note, my hour is up. Thank you guys for coming. Thank you for your input. I really appreciate it. Tomorrow, I am going to get back on track with what I was going to talk about today, which is pretty interesting, which is, should white people be able to go to historically, Black colleges? So, and that's a whole different, there's a lot of history there, and there's a lot of reasons why a lot of these colleges are accepting white students, and how some of the Black students are starting to respond to that. So anyway, you guys, thank you so much for showing up. Thank you. You can follow me on YouTube, and remember, always speak your truth. All right. Bye, Cheryl. All right. See you later. Bye.